welcome. This is another installment of a community meeting where we're going to talk a little bit about the risk maps and some of our winter storm readiness that we have. So as we're going to go through an agenda here and talk a little bit about some new information that we have, and then we're going to turn it over to questions and answers. And when we get to that part of the evening, I would hope that people can use a microphone so our folks that are watching it on TV at home can hear the questions, and they may have the same questions you have, so that'll be helpful for everyone. To start us out tonight, I want to recognize a few folks that are here in the room. Some of them are seated up here, and some of them are mixed through the crowd. We appreciate Wendy Mota being here from Salud Carvajal's office, Congressman Carvajal's office. Here's Wendy. Samantha Omana is here from Assemblymember Monique Lamone's office. We have Linda Potter here from Atkins. We have Craig Bonner from the Sheriff's Office. Hidden out in the crowd, we have Kevin Taylor from Montecito Fire. We also have Chris Chalk with Caltrans here tonight to help us out. We have Jan Kogler here with Public Health. There she is in the back. We have Mark Jackson with us tonight from the National Weather Service, who is not over here. 5 seconds ago, he was sitting right here. It's always fun. Okay, we also have Tom Fayram here with our flood control district. Thank you, Tom. We have Ellen Barger here as well from the County Education Office. There she is. And Suzanne Grima is here with our Behavioral Wellness Department. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to First District Supervisor and Chair of the Board of Supervisors, Das Williams.
Good evening and happy holidays. And I hope, I know that rain for many brings back some bad memories of what we've been through, but you really should try to enjoy this, because this has been a great couple storms, not only for hillside stability, but for a sort of dry run or maybe wet run for our systems and our new threshold and protocol. Last week's storm had many areas that were just at or just above or a little bit below our thresholds, and things held. Debris did come down into some of our debris basins, and we are already cleaning some out. But it was very good in general for hillside stability, good for showing us sort of where is our protocol, is our threshold 0.1 of an inch the right threshold to be looking at evacuations at. And it should be also a reminder, as good as these last 2 weeks have been, I want to say that I want to dispel the perception that if your zip code is not 93108, you don't have anything to worry about. I'm a Carpinteria resident. For those Carpinteria residents that fall outside of the watersheds protected by the Santa Monica Debris Basin, the only reason why we were not in the same level of danger as Montecito was just luck, was where the most intense rains were. And it is our policy at the County of Santa Barbara to not rely on luck as a tool of emergency preparation. So Carpinteria has to worry, has to be prepared. We don't have to be dysfunctional with that worry. We don't have to treat it and dwell upon it, but we have to prepare ourselves and disseminate information. And in that spirit, I just want to ask that if you have somebody that you talk to in the next week about this that would like to have been here, there are 2 more opportunities. One is Monday night at St. Joseph's, if you are a Spanish speaker, and another one for English speakers in Montecito Union School, same time, but on Wednesday of next week. So with that, I just want to say that this has been a challenging year, but it's also been an incredible year for people to really respond to the fact that fences are down in our community, both figuratively in Montecito, or both literally in Montecito, but figuratively throughout our community. We pull together in times like this, and it's been an inspirational time to represent you in the Board of Supervisors. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doss. And I'm going to turn it over next to Dave Derflinger, your city manager here in Carpinteria.
Thank you, Matt. Just a quick welcome on behalf of the Carpinteria City Council, and a thank you for coming and spending the time, as Supervisor Williams indicated, to prepare, because that's what it's all about. It's about educating yourself to prepare in case of a disaster, so you and your family can make the best decisions possible. We're here tonight working cooperatively to give you the best information you can to make those decisions. Again, welcome and thank you. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to the Director of the Office of Emergency Management, Rob Lewin.
Thank you, sir. It is once again good to be here with all of you. As you can see by the numerous agencies that are here present, that took their evening tonight to make sure that they could be here, is a demonstration that we're all in this together, that there are many eyes on these mountains. There's many eyes of people trying to work together to make sure that we're providing the highest level of safety and security for the communities. There's many communities that have joined in the same predicament that we have all been in for the last year. The communities in Malibu and the Woolsey Fire areas of Brown, Malibu, and Ventura County. Certainly the folks up in Paradise that we've all been watching, and the folks in Tuolumne have had a little issue, and others up in Shasta County. And I can tell you that we've been sharing as much information as we can with all of them with the experiences that we've had. And the biggest message that we want to convey is that by providing as much information to the community, we are arming all of the community with the tools that they need to make wise decisions. And so tonight we're here once again to try to offer the information that we've gathered, some of the new mapping that has taken place. As a supervisor said, the storms have been perfect. And if we could have a whole winter of storms like this, we'll see regrowth on our hills that will exceed a normal year of regrowth, and we will put this all behind us sooner. The storm last week, as mentioned, I wanted to give a little bit of statistics as the supervisor was talking about. We have a threshold of 0.8 that we told you about the last community meeting that we had. And that storm hit 0.8 and a little bit above, in one case up to 0.9 inches. And it actually caused debris flows in a couple of the debris basins, and the debris basins worked as engineered. The channels, because they're cleared out now, did see tumbling of rocks and water rising, but again, the channels performed well. And what that really told us as emergency managers is that the threshold that we've provided you of 0.8 is an accurate number. And we have, and so we have a lot of confidence now that when we hit a predicted storm, from my friend over here, Mark Jackson and his team at the National Weather Service, that we have to respond to it, because the margins between a predicted storm and the actual storm that we could get is variable to some degree. And so, as we all know from 1.9, that the predicted storm is one thing, but the storm we get is another thing. And so with 0.8, it's going to be enough that if it happens, that we could have a storm that is much greater, it could cause more debris flows, that we all need to take action, that we all need to evacuate when called to evacuate. We know this for a fact now from what we saw last week. Tom Fayram's team, the flood control district folks, are out right now every day removing the debris that went in them, so that constantly we're operating under clear debris basins. So let's talk a little bit about alerting. Over the last few storms, we've sent out messaging to all of you letting you know that there's a storm on the way. This is in with our protocols. Now, for some people, maybe this alerting is too much. Maybe you're like, oh, you know, it's too many things. And for others, you're hungry for more information. This is kind of the Goldilocks problem that we're facing in our jobs, is how do we give you the right amount of information? We believe we're on that. We're doing the best we can. We're not trying to alarm you at any time. We want to make you conscious of what's coming. And we don't want to overdo it so that you're turning us off, if you will. And so if we're getting that mark, you know, let us know that it's good, we're satisfied, but if in some way you think it's not enough or too much, then of course we'll want to hear from you tonight afterwards. Got a thumbs up that we're doing okay, so thank you, sir. So with that, the other part about is the map. And so we knew last spring that the map that we had made in the previous January, that things had changed on the ground, that we had done a lot of work, that we had more data, that people had been in the field after the creation of the January 28th map that we'd used last year, that a lot of work had gone into data collection, and many scientists have looked at it from varieties of sources. So we asked for some funding to support a review of that map. And FEMA provided us with a matching grant. So they paid for 75% of it, and the county picked up the rest of the costs. And we were able to hire Atkins Engineering. And with me tonight is an engineer who led the team of engineers from Atkins, Linda Potter. And she's here with us tonight. If there's any questions later that someone would like to ask specifically about a parcel that they're on or why something is a certain way, she's here to explain all that to us. But let me give you some of the numbers on that. The previous, there were 988 parcels in this new map that have been removed, that they're no longer identified as being at risk. And I want you to have confidence in this new map. I have 100% confidence that this map is solid and that we're ready to go with it. So I want you all to have that as well. Of the 988 that were removed, there were, I don't have the number up here, but many of about half and half were in Montecito and half in Carpinteria. There were 199 parcels that were added. Now I know for folks that if you're one of these parcels that this is a concern, and again, we're here to explain the reasoning behind that and why that is. So in total now we have 1,508 total parcels. We had 2,496 before. So we're urging everyone to go to readysbc.org to pull up the map, type in their address, look and see what's on there. Tonight, later, we're going to hear from the Assistant Superintendent of County Schools about school closures and how they are. And the map also identifies the information from that. I'm going to show you the map here in a moment. So again, if the storm is predicted to be 0.8 and you're identified in a risk area, of course, we want you to take action. So I'm going to move over to the mic over here. We're going to put the map up here, and we're going to talk about the things that have changed on the map in specifics. Okay, am I on here? Okay, good. All right, so here we have the map up on the screen. And as you can see, it looks much like it did previous to when we loaded it up. I guess that was the Monday. And so let's zoom in a little bit. I'm going to work from west to east here. And the reason I'm going to show you Montecito, even though we're in Carpinteria, is because some folks aren't going to make the Montecito meeting and they're here tonight, or they're viewers at home. So I know that some of this will affect not all of you, but others will. The yellow areas, again, are identified as educational facilities, and this facility right here, of course, is the college up there, and then we have Cold Springs Elementary School. When I click on Cold Springs Elementary School, it gives information about whether the school will be open or closed. And you'll be able to do, it's exactly the same map that you're looking on. When I zoom in now on the map, every parcel has been reviewed by our operations folks. This is the sheriffs, the fire departments, Public Works, from flood control. Everyone has gone through and identified which of the parcels individually. So when you click on your parcel, if you lived here, it's going to tell you that, yes, you're in a debris flow risk area and this is your address. And so you'll definitively know that you're impacted by it. So where were some of the changes that occurred? There was a lot of reduction over in some of these areas in here. There were additions in some of the areas in here and down off of San Ysidro. There were some additions. So folks in this area need to make sure they get on and identify it. Here's Montecito Union School. This school will be closed, but as you can see from the map, the school itself is not in a debris risk area. This area in here is a debris risk area, but there's no parcels that are impacted by it. There's no structures that are impacted by it. So that's the difference between the ones with the red squares and the other red areas. Now, if you want to work with this map, you can click on these legends over here, and you can turn on and off different layers of the map. Now, if I want to turn on where the 1-9 debris flow occurred, I can click this map, or this legend item, and you can see that another color comes up. This is where the actual debris flow occurred on 1-9. And that, of course, was taken into consideration by our scientists. I'm going to turn that back off now. So as we go over into the Carpinteria area, it's an area that we had a lot of change, and I want to talk a little bit about that. As you know, before, the communities in some of the downtown area in here were impacted by it. One of the changes is along the Santa Monica Creek here. At the very top up here is the Santa Monica Basin, and I want to just for a moment talk about the Santa Monica Basin. We have 11 debris basins in the Thomas Burn area, impact area. And of those 11 basins, only one of them was actually fully engineered to be able to hold the capacity that the watershed could shed if in the event of a debris flow. And as we all know on 1-9, this incredible debris basin performed as designed. And so when the engineers were going through this, and again, Linda's here and can talk to folks individually or ask questions at the questioning part, she determined, her team determined that we can reduce the area below this creek because of the design of this debris basin if we were to experience another 1-9 debris basin, 1-9 debris flow, because it can handle it. Now, if we find that we have back-to-back debris flows, we have a storm that occurs, it fills up that debris basin, then we're going to have to go back and put in the map the old polygon that we had from last year on this one channel. This is a concrete line channel that runs through called the Santa Monica Creek. There's some additions up here in the foothills that were added. There's not a lot of homes in these, but they were added also. And then you can see along the Carpenter Creek area, there aren't a lot of homes. There's some backyards and things along here until you get very down into the flat areas down here, and this is some industrial areas down in this part. And then lastly, as we get down to the county line, there is some changes down here on Rincon Point. And so folks on Rincon Point need to make sure that they're taking a look at this map and identifying the risks for them. Okay, I'm going to go back up to the other mic. So the other type of storm, that's for a predicted storm. We have a couple days, like the storm we're seeing today. We knew it was coming for days. Mark Jackson's office, National Weather Service, Oxnard, their folks can see it. They can give us a lot of information. But every now and again, we're going to see a storm that's going to be rapidly developing. It's usually a thunderstorm scenario. Mark is here and can talk about the science behind that in more detail. But in general, these come up quick, and sometimes they will give us little to no warning. And in those cases, we're not going to have time to evacuate people. And so what do you do if we're in a situation where you're merely getting a short amount of warning, or maybe even none at all, but there's now a debris flow? So the roads may be impacted, and we do not want people to put themselves in harm's way by going on a road that is in a debris flow area. So by going to the map and looking at your escape routes, that's how you're going to make some decisions about what you're going to do. If you can't leave the area, what we'd like you to be able to do is now take a moment and find a neighbor who's on high ground very close by that you can get to quickly. Now remember, it's going to be raining, it could be nighttime, so you need to be able to think about how you're going to do that in the rain, in the dark. So flashlights, coats, good shoes, always handy. What if you don't have a neighbor nearby? The next option for you is if you have a second-story home, to get up on the second story in the center. And of course, if you don't have a second, get into the center of your house that you're protected by debris. That's the options that we would have if we're a rapidly developing storm. We hope we get through the whole winter without ever having to experience anything like that, of course. But as we saw last week, the storm was well predicted, but on Thursday we had some cells that came over the storm, over the area that created some relatively intense rain, not enough for a debris flow, but they were there and they came up fast. And so we are messaging you that we're on it, we're looking at that, but there's still some uncertainty about that. Okay, let's switch to the next one. Oh, I didn't know we weren't clicking here. Okay, room, second floor, okay, map. And finally, I just want to remind you about what we talked about at the last meeting, which is ready, set, go. That if we have a well-predicted storm, about 72 hours out, we're on conference calls with the National Weather Service. The team convenes, the risk decision team convenes, which is members of the cities, the county, law enforcement, fire, and a recommendation is going to be made to the sheriff's office on the issue of whether we should issue an advisory. An advisory means there's a storm that shows the potential. You'll get an alert from us. Then the next day, we'll convene again, and we'll see what the storm's doing. If it's continuing to hold up and being a threat, then we're going to issue an evacuation warning for the areas that are identified as a risk. And that is the time for you to make sure you're well prepared to leave, that you know where you're going to go, that your family knows what they're going to do, that you have identified how you're going to gather your pets, how you're going to deal with any large animals, that you have a plan well in place, that you have cash ready, that you have the documents you want to take with you, anything that's super valuable to you, that your car is ready to go, it has fuel in it, that your phones are charged up, that your batteries, extra batteries for your phones, extra batteries for anything that like radios, etc. So you've looked at everything and you're ready to go. That's the evacuation warning period. Then within 24 hours of the storm, we'll issue an evacuation order, and that means leave now. We will use all methods of alerting people for this one, including wireless emergency alert, social media, regular media, emergency alert system, the Aware and Prepare signups, Nixle, and our sheriff's office, who will come up in a few minutes and go through this all again, will be on the door-to-door. That'll happen at the leave now. And finally, we need some help. And we're asking for volunteers to come to City Hall at 9 a.m. on Sunday to help stuff handouts into some recyclable bags, and so that at 12 to 5 on Sunday afternoon, our volunteer organizations and our Sheriff's Search and Rescue and our Sheriff's deputies will be out handing out door-to-door information to everybody that's in a risk area here in Carpinteria. And the same thing will occur later in Montecito. So if you're able to come volunteer this Sunday, we could sure use your help. If you have any questions about that, Mimi is back here, and she's going to lead the charge on that for the city of Carpinteria. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Chief Deputy of the Sheriff's Office, Craig Bonner.
All right, so on behalf of Sheriff Brown, I really want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank anybody that's watching this on television. You know, you guys are all taking an active role in preparing for the future, preparing to protect yourselves, your families, and your community. As you've already heard, you know, the teams represented by the folks up here tonight have done a lot of work over the last 11 months. preparing for something we hope really doesn't happen, but preparing nonetheless. Specifically, we've worked really hard to refine our policies, our procedures, and our training, right? Both to ensure that we are better prepared to help protect the community, but also to help make sure that our community members are prepared to protect themselves. So one of the key areas that we addressed throughout this process was the methods by which we plan for and we conduct evacuations, as well as how we communicate with our community members about those evacuations. Just to give a couple quick examples, we made changes within our dispatch center that allow all 3 public safety disciplines to see each other. When they go to a call that's the same call, they can now see each other on the GPS so that we can get our incident commanders together and we can get that unified command up and going quicker, which allows us to make decisions faster and then get information out to community members faster. We're also conducting training with our supervisors to reinforce the importance of getting that unified command going as quickly as possible. We've also done considerable work within our dispatch center, working on their ability to send out the Aware and Prepare and the WIA alerts as quickly as we possibly can, to the point that we've facilitated some actual culture shifts within our dispatch. It's one of the things that I learned when I went up there is they are very much driven on answering 911 calls as quickly as possible. So we actually had to work with them to get to the point of realizing that they can do more good by getting out the WIA alert and or the Aware and Prepare alert as quickly as possible, and perhaps pulling a person off of those 911 calls long enough to do that. But we went through that culture shift. We worked very closely with the Office of Emergency Management to come up with a system that works and works as quickly as we possibly can. So moving beyond what we have done and my colleagues have done in terms of the refinement of the evacuation map, the adoption of this is Ready, Set, Go messaging that Director Lewin talked about a little bit ago, all of which we hope is going to make it easier for community members to understand the process and understand what they need to do to protect themselves. And I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about this evacuation process and how we're going to connect with community members. And Director Lewin did talk about that a little bit already. If we can get the slide prior to that. So I'm not going to go into each and every single one of these things, but all of these are the different methods that we're going to utilize throughout the process, trying to get information out to the community so you understand what's happening and what you need to do to protect yourselves. So, the traditional media outlets, obviously we're going to be working with them, social media, County of Santa Barbara, TV channel, the 211 information line. We're going to be using all of those to push out information to community members beforehand so that you have time to get ready. The use of Aware and Prepare alerts is a key means that we're going to be able to push out geographically relevant information, where we can really tighten it down as much as possible. However, one of the key things about the Aware and Prepare alerts, and we're trying to push that message, is we need people to sign up. If you haven't already done it, please do it. We've got computers back here that you can go back and utilize. If you have family members that haven't done it, get them signed up and work with your neighbors and your family and your friends about getting signed up on that Aware and Prepare. It truly is a key means. We're going to be able to push out information via text messages, robo phone calls to your cell phones, to your landlines, the email alerts. All of those things are dependent upon you signing up for Aware and Prepare. So again, very important that we do that. So again, when it's time to go, and we're going to push out that wireless emergency alert, either it may come from the Office of Emergency Management if it's one of those systems where we have a lot of time to prepare for it, or if it's a rapidly evolving one, it may come from our dispatch center. The challenge with the wireless emergency alert, or WIA as we sometimes call it, is at the moment anyways, we're really constrained on how much information we can put in there. And so it may be as simple as telling you that there is a heavy rainfall occurring in the Carpinteria area, flash flood warning, take action to stay safe, and we really can't put any more information into it beyond that. We're going to follow that up as quickly as possible with the Aware and Prepare, where we can put more information, but you have to sign up for it to get that. So again, we're really pushing, get signed up, have your family signed up, have your friends signed up, and your neighbors signed up. So, and we can go on to the next slide now. We'll also be using the FCC emergency alert system. You know, that's what we hear on the radio and our televisions. We've confirmed that that system is up and running, it's working correctly, and we do intend to utilize it. The other thing that is revamped for this year is the Radio Ready program. And if you'll switch to the next slide. So all of these are radio stations here in the Santa Barbara County area that have generator backup, and they have the satellite phones provided by the Office of Emergency Services. And here's the beauty of it. When the electricity goes out, the internet's out, the TV's out, everything else is out, these radio stations are still going to be on the air pushing out information. So what's important is that we all go out and we get a small battery-operated radio, and that we test it out to find out which of these stations you get good reception. Because when everything else fails, you should still be able to get some information about what's going on and what you need to do to stay safe and or to get help via these. Even when the televisions, the telephones, cell phones, all that stuff isn't working. So again, it's time to go back to the 80s and get ourselves a little, you know, wireless or a battery-operated radio. So again, just to kind of close things out from the Sheriff's Office perspective, you know, I just want to reiterate that, you know, although all of our organizations, you know, that have been involved in this process have done a lot of work, admirable work, working together to mitigate these dangers and to prepare for what we, again, hope doesn't happen, it's equally important that community members take an active role in this process. Take some time to go to readysbc.org and learn about the preparations you can make to protect yourself, your family, and your neighborhood. Sign up to receive Aware and Prepare alerts, and most importantly, and it's been talked about a couple times before, begin making plans for your household, right, today. Don't wait until you get that emergency alert to begin figuring out how you're going to protect yourself. The time to do that is today, and begin making those plans. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ellen Berger here with the County Education Office for a quick update on schools.
Thank you. First, I'd like to say thank you to everyone here, and also to show my appreciation for the rigor of the science, the engineering, and the planning that has gone into this preparation. As an educator, we really do appreciate that level of rigor. But I also want to express my gratitude on behalf of all of the educators in our community. What became very clear through our disasters, through our recovery, and in this planning is that this community prioritizes our schools and our children above all else. And so as we think about the private and public schools, I speak on behalf of all of our leaders to say our two main goals are keeping students safe and keeping students in school, because that's where they need to be, that's where they belong. As the referenced map and the refined maps demonstrate, the Carpinteria schools, both public and private, are all out of the risk area. They are all out of the evacuation zones. And so what that means is, in the case of an evacuation, our schools will remain open. Also, Rob spoke about the rapidly developing storms. And in those cases, I think it's very important for kids to stay in school if this happens during school. So we've spoken with Superintendent Diana Rigby, and Principal of Carpinteria High School, Gerardo Cornejo, is here as well. right over here, and all of the school leaders in the Carpinteria area and in Montecito. And they have been considering and preparing for the rapidly developing storms. It's important that parents stay off the roads and know that their children are safe, are cared for, and all of the services will be available for them at school. And so the last thing that I really want to make sure that everyone knows is that our schools are in constant communication with the Office of Emergency Management, with our first responders, and are working to make sure that your children are safe, that your children can remain in school, and that we're doing everything we can to make sure that we continue to place students as a priority. So I will be here for any individual questions after, as will Mr. Cornejo. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. That was a great message for our schools. Next up, we have Suzanne Grima with our County of Santa Barbara's Behavioral Wellness Team to talk a little bit about the Community Wellness Team. Suzanne?
Thank you and good evening. How nice to see so many people here. The impact of the anniversary of our disasters last year, whether it be the fire, the Thomas Fire, or the 1/9 debris flow, or simply worrying what could happen in your area here in Carpinteria, can trigger unsettling feelings, thoughts, and memories surrounding this time of year. The anniversary reactions is what they call them in the mental health field that are triggered tell us that we're still going through the recovery and the healing process, and they're perfectly normal. Oftentimes people will ask, well, what's normal? What should I be feeling now around this time of the year? What are anniversary reactions? And they're very much the same as the feelings, the thoughts, the emotions that we felt at this time last year. So sadness, tearfulness, numbness, difficulty concentrating, irritability, fear, even physical symptoms of headaches or stomach aches. And for many people, these reactions can catch us by surprise. So it's important to know, and I think helpful to know, that should you suddenly experience a feeling or see another person, that this really is normal this time of the year. What can you do about that? And many parents ask, what can I do to help my kids or be aware of? Talk to other people about your feelings. Friends, family, professionals if need be, others that have shared the same experience. Know that anniversary dates, the actual date on the calendar alone, may not be the only date that you experience a reaction. It's really surrounding the time of year. Anniversaries of events that occur broadly in the community, and ours certainly count at that, will bring about media coverage, and you'll see more in the media and the TV and the paper, also very normal, but those things also can be triggering. So it's just to be aware. Take extra good care of yourselves and of others. And know that you're not alone in the way that you feel. And talk to others. After the Thomas Fire and the 1/9 debris flow, the Department of Behavioral Wellness was not in any way alone in our providing community support, but rather banded together with a group that we call now our Community Wellness Team. It's made up of about 15 different organizations to allow us a whole continuum of care that people in the community needed and may still need now. So ranging from crisis counseling, short-term counseling, long-term counseling, all the way to Cottage Hospital providing intensive outpatient programs and groups. I won't name all the organizations, but there's a few in the back, so I want to call attention. Hope 805 is, if you guys can put your hands up, Hope 805 was formed through a FEMA-funded grant, and they still remain active in the community, providing outreach and engagement, and are here tonight. Santa Barbara Response Network. Anthony is with us, is another organization that's a part of this team. Most important for you to know is there's still a team that's there and there to provide support. So the best way to reach out would be to call Hope 805. The number's up on the screen, but it's 845-2973. Hope 805 can get you connected to the right type of support for your individual needs. 211 is another excellent number to call. And the last thing I would mention that was formed not that long ago is something through the institutional, why am I forgetting the name? The ICTG, okay, which is another one of our groups. It's a part, I won't even try and remember it. That's a part of our community wellness team. They help to put live on the internet something called the South SBC All Right campaign. And this is something where you can log on to the website, and it's a way to check in. It's a way for us to know who may not yet be quite all right, and we can be there to help. It's a way to share experiences, record your experience, and read those of others. So those are some resources that are there for you. So we talked a lot about being prepared and being alert, and I encourage you to do that, but enjoy your holiday season as well. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Supervisor Das Williams, and then we're going to go into our question and answer period.
So I just wanted to note, many of you saw how involved our Summerlin Fire Protection District staff were last time. They are still deeply involved, but they are swearing in both Chief Fish and I and my colleagues on the Board of Supervisors voted to appoint Lisa Gurvitz on the Summerlin Fire Protection District, and she's also being sworn in tonight. And so that, otherwise, Mayor Fred Shaw would also be here. So I just wanted to give you a word. The Summerlin Fire Protection District is still deeply involved with us. And a note about this aware and prepare, right? Most of the time at these meetings, most of the folks seem to believe that they are enrolled. And even when I go out and talk to people in the public, they seem to be enrolled. But even after all that we have been through, only 12% of people countywide are enrolled, right? So, and in this community, it's much higher, somewhere in the 30s. But I want to just turn that on the head. That means, close to 2/3 of your neighbors are not enrolled in Aware and Prepare. And so I think there must be some confusion out there. They may get the WIA alerts, and they may believe that they're already signed up. But it's obvious that we need to get out there and get some more of our friends and neighbors and colleagues signed up. So just a last bit of urgency. ReadySBC.org. Get it to your neighbors. They need that information. And because there's always so many wonderful things happening in our community, and not everybody was able to make it tonight, we have 2 more meetings of this kind. One is Monday night, 5:30 at St. Joseph's. And that, for those that don't know, is 1532 Linden Avenue. They can wave hi at my house on the way. And on Wednesday at 5:30 at Montecito Union School, that, for those that don't know, is 385 San Isidro Road. So the Monday meeting will be in Spanish. The Wednesday meeting will all be in English, though we do have translation services available. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Supervisor. And with that, we'd like to hear some questions from the community. If you can make your way up to the microphone, we'd be happy to answer some questions and provide some additional information. Yeah, that would be great.
So I have a few questions. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just short. Okay, there. Okay.
There you go.
Sorry. All right. I just want to clarify the CUSD closure because that's changed since the last meeting. So if there's a mandatory evacuation for a storm, last meeting it was that all CARP schools would be closed. Now you're saying they will remain open because they all fall outside a debris flow risk area?
That's right. The refined map now makes it that the school that was in is out, and there was only one school
Aliso,
that was
okay.
originally in, Aliso.
Okay.
And so now the new map showed that all of the schools are safe and out of the risk zone.
Okay, okay, that's what I thought, I understood, okay. And the next question I have is that I'm the assistant director at Lou Grant at the end of 6th Avenue, and we had a pretty significant mud event last year, and we are now in an evacuation, a mandatory evacuation zone. But can you talk a little bit about the status of the stormwater drainage system in Carp? I mean, we've had lots of trucks doing routes and for many weeks there.
Absolutely. So
Okay.
Tom Fayram with our flood control district is going to help us out with that question.
Great.
Yes, so good news for Carpinteria and Montecito is all of our debris basins and creek channels and drainage ways have been cleared out. As was mentioned earlier, we had a storm that dumped several inches of rain and did move some debris. That work is ongoing. I think we had equipment rolling within an hour of first light after that event, and that will continue throughout the winter. That the minute there is material that is either in a debris basin or in a channel, we're going to take action if it's needed. And what you were referring in the last fall was some cleanup from the prior March storm in the Carpinteria area. The Carpinteria salt marsh was a material that was moved out, not on an emergency basis, but through our routine permits, and that's why it was done in the fall, because it wasn't an emergency, into April anymore in the judgment of us. So that's where those line of trucks was taking place here last October or so. But everything is in good shape. The Santa Monica debris basin, as mentioned, is ready to go. It's actually being worked on. We're still repairing it, but it is fully functional, and all of our debris basins are fully functional and ready for more debris.
Good, okay. I think, maybe I was unclear, but where Lou Grant sits at the corner of 6th and Carp Creek, and the storm drainage actually backed up, and so we had quite a lot of mud that came up from the storm drains. So that was what was the problem last year for us.
From the city storm drains, not the creek itself?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, maybe we can talk with Dave about that. Normally, we take care of the stream channels, and the interior
Right.
drainage is the
Yeah.
city. So why don't you catch Dave and I afterwards?
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, thank you.
Hello.
I wanted to say a few words on behalf of a forgotten risk factor. A lot of great work has been done around the county doing clearing channels, and I think that's fantastic. But one area that's been forgotten, I'm afraid, is Rincon Creek. It's on the county line. Neither county seems to feel that they have the authority to touch it. Now, I've lived next to that creek for 40 years, so I know it well. And if you leave debris in the channels and they come down and clog the tunnel underneath the 101, then there's going to be real trouble. So I'm hoping that some effort can be made to try to assess the debris in the channel and hopefully thin it out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll have some folks take a look at that. Right. Do we have any other questions here from the group? Okay, seeing none, our folks are going to stick around a little bit later here. If you have questions, come on up and find out which agency can help you out. I'd also like to thank Joe Black for being here tonight to help us out with translation. Thank you, Joe. And thank you to the City of Carpinteria for having us. We appreciate it. Thank you.